how do I create a healthy transition through a rough change? Let's make sure that this is clear. There's a difference between change and transition. Change is something that happens. You move to a new office, you go to a new city, you're dating a new person, you have a child. Those things are changes. Transitions are the internal stuff that actually gets you from, in a healthful manner, as in healthy manner, from one change to the next, from the before to the after. How do you get through that? That's such an important key part of it. We want to talk about how to have healthy transitions, particularly when we're having a rough change. And change comes down to basically three different things. And this is based on, again, the book Transitions by William and Susan Bridges. Shout out to both of them. Rest in peace to William Bridges. Fantastic book. I talked about it at the top of the show if you want to rewind it. And so, rewind it, showing my age. If you want to go back to the beginning, hit the VCR button, go for it. There are three parts to every single transition. There's the ending, there's a neutral zone, and there's the beginning. Now you notice the order is a little bit different than what we're told, particularly here in America. The order we usually have is beginning, some type of messy middle, and then end, something ends. And then we start something new. What the Bridges, that's their last name, what the Bridges argue is that it's actually kind of the opposite. We go through an ending, a wrapping up, a conclusion. And then there's this kind of what they call neutral zone, this messy, amorphous, hard to describe. You can't put your finger on it. Things that used to be comfortable are uncomfortable. As I talk about in the Bites of Entrepreneur, which is included in the collection, I talked about going through a phase in my life where I was almost like I was a toddler, because I had a toddler at the time. Again, my eldest was a toddler at the time, and how the clothes didn't quite fit, and the arms start getting awkward, and the legs don't seem to work as well. It's like you're growing, but you're not quite a kid, but you're not a baby anymore. That toddler stage, 2 to 3 years old, is just awkward. And that's how I felt career-wise, particularly after I sold my last startup, Cuddler. And so much of my identity was wrapped up into it. I didn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? I'm like, what am I now? That's what you go through. That's what it is. And we'll get deeper into that in a second. And then you have a new beginning. And as Bridges argues, again, in Transitions, they argue that often that beginning will naturally occur when we're doing the messy work, when we're in the in-between. It reminds me a lot of the seasons. If you saw the thumbnail, the picture to this, that's why I had a picture of myself with the 4 seasons here in the United States, where it's like winter, spring, summer and fall. We're about to enter the fall season in a couple of weeks here in the States. And that's why I mentioned that, where it's almost like in wintertime, those seeds are getting planted, believe it or not, for the spring bloom. It's not like, again, here in the States, it's not like in March or in April when spring begins here in Las Vegas that suddenly the trees start blooming. It's like, oh, trees came out of nowhere. No. Actually, those seeds might have been planted as early as the fall. And they sat in the earth and we didn't see them growing, but they were changing. And then suddenly we got a sprout. And then before we know it, summertime and everything's green. But it doesn't happen immediately. That messy middle is a really important part of us understanding what goes into a new beginning and what goes into an ending. Often we do the reverse. We want to begin something new, and then when it's over, then we want to wrap it up really quickly. But how you end things, I've learned, is almost as important, maybe even more important than how you begin things. Because how you end things kind of sets up the stage for the beginning. How you get ready for things in the fall or in the winter time will dictate how the new beginning begins in the springtime. You can't have one without the other. They're all part of the game. Yeah. Hi, Durad. Thank you for coming through. Woo! Yeah, that is huge. I'm transitioning to full-time professor in person and on campus. That is big. At 3 years of working from home writer slash editor, huge strange transition, and I'm feeling it. Yeah. cheers, cheers to you. Some coffee for you. It's such a big part of it. And Duran, I think that's you're already kind of recognizing it. So I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But just kind of give context for the rest of the audience. It's not just okay, you're going in and you're you're becoming a in person professor, and you're commuting and all those things. You're not doing the Zoom calls anymore, or whatever the equivalent is from your home office. It's not just that. It's not just the logistics of that, not just, you might have to update your wardrobe and stuff like it's not just that. But it's also, again, what's going to stay the same. And you're still going to be professoring. I think that's a verb. We're going to use that as a verb today. You're still going to be professoring, right? Dr. Snyder, I'll call you doctor today, right? And number two, what's going to change? Well, what's going to change is that you're going to be doing it in person. You'll have more socialization with faculty and, of course, with the students. But then that third question is what's going to be the loss? And loss might be you having a little bit less quiet time at home, or you having to be more social if you don't want to be social, or I don't know, maybe more office hours. I don't know. Or maybe even the psychological thing of being able to work from home versus having to kind of go out into the world. And depending on part of the United States or the world that you're in, wintertime is going to be coming really soon. So you might not look forward to that. Those are certain losses that are part of that transition. And there's grieving and an emotional part of that, particularly, like you said, after 3 years. That's a long time. So you're doing the same thing since 2021. That's a long time. So suddenly you have this lifestyle change. If you have friends or family, then the amount of time you spend with them might be different. It's definitely going to be a different schedule, right? So all those things play into transition. So thank you for your comment. And that's huge. Hopefully the stuff that we're talking about today and the books I recommend, particularly Transitions, again, I can't speak about this book more. Highly recommended. All the links are below. Hopefully they'll help you with this transition. It sounds like you can handle the change fine. But transitions, as I mentioned, they tend to get a little bit more complicated. So thank you for your comment. I really appreciate it, Duran. Yeah, and congrats. It sounds like that's the direction you want to go in. Speaking of conversations, if you're going through the phases of transition, you're probably going to have to explain it to people. You're going to have to explain it to if you have a long-time partner, explain it to your partner, or even a short-term partner. Explain it to all your partners. You explain it to your family, if you have kids or parents or whatever, older adults. You have to explain it to your crew, your friends. You explain it to a lot of folks. That requires, frankly, a level of conflict. It's like that conversation. I know those conversations. I've received those conversations and I've given those conversations where it's like, hey, yeah, I have this great opportunity. It's in a different state. They want me to start right away. Yeah, everybody's moving. Yeah. Are you cool with that? Like, we need to learn how to communicate to each other when those changes happen. And then it allows us to actually deal with the transition. Again, remember, change is external. Change is, I got a new job. It's exactly what I want. It's exactly what our family needs. It's in a whole different state. Transition is, okay, so will the kids feel at home there if you have kids? Will I be able to work there just like my partner is? Like all those little details, but they're more on an emotional level. My friend group, will I still stay connected to them? We're used to getting together and have a drink once a week. How are we going to do that? That's a transition. Again, that's almost like the emotional underbelly of it. To get to the emotional underbelly, you need to have good conversations. I have 2 degrees in journalism, a master's in magazine publishing. I'm so proud of them. When it comes to these crucial conversations, they might as well be useless. Now, I don't have the physical book, but I do have it on Kindle, so unfortunately, I can't show it to you guys. The link is below. There's like 5 authors. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I love all of y'all. It's a fantastic classic book and really good stuff. Worth checking out if you're going to do that. Yep, yep, absolutely. Yep. And congrats on your change, and good luck with your transition. Again, all the links are below. Hopefully, it'll help you with your process as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Crucial Conversations, can't recommend the book more. I've heard it recommended over and over again, particularly from coaching folks and people that support people who, have to have tough conversations. Chances are, if you're going through a big change, you're going to have at least one hard conversation. And remember, you have to set yourself up for success when it comes to change. So if you're going through a change, chances are other people around you are going to have to change in some form too. Speaking of change, one good companion to understanding the 3 stages of transition is why should I change my goals, how to let go of a dream. Really important. I'm a really ambitious person. A lot of y'all that I coach are ambitious, so I know some of y'all are watching right now. And sometimes our goals don't fit us anymore. Sometimes our big dreams don't make any sense anymore. We're going to do all this changing, evolving, growing, mastering things, outgrowing things like that, and then we're going to have the same goals. It doesn't. If you think about it, from a logical standpoint, it makes no sense. Of course, we're going to have different goals. Of course, we're going to outgrow things. Of course, we're not going to fit anymore. This relatively short video, I'd say like 8-9 minutes, talks about how particularly ambitious people like myself, perhaps like you, can be in situations where we're looking at a goal to obtain and we're like, oh, I don't want it anymore. And sometimes that can feel like a failure. Not because you can't reach the goal, but because it doesn't satisfy you anymore. How do you make peace with that? And sometimes it is a case of you not being able to reach a goal, but maybe you're not reaching a goal because it doesn't make any sense anymore. In other words, it might not be, quote unquote, your fault. It might not be a failure. This might not make any sense. If we're going to talk about transition, we have to talk about the process of letting go. That's what this episode talks about. It's one of my favorite episodes, a little bit old school. I think it's from a couple years ago. One of my favorite little episodes, it's like 8 minutes long. Check it out, particularly if you feel like you're struggling with the concept of particularly transition. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. I help side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs like yourself reach their goals, ironically enough, figure out if goals aren't right for you, work on your emotional intelligence so that you can be more connected to yourself and the people that you care about, including understanding your own pathway, and also helping you build passive income in other ways that you can actually build towards creating something amazing for the world. I want you to have your voice as loud as possible and you impact the communities you want to serve. You can watch this every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free below. It's episode 393. So it's 392 episodes for you to hang out with. So, if you're enjoying the live shows, there's about 100 live shows, and then there's a bunch of recorded shows, interviews with other folks. I think you guys will have a blast. Go and subscribe now, as well as check out the complete Bring Your Worth collection, available everywhere books are sold, as well as you can listen to the audiobook right now after I'm done talking, using the link below. And shout out again to Shortform at shortform.com/Damon, D-A-M-O-N, where they're giving you a special discount only for Bring Your Worth TV viewers and listeners, where you can get a free trial to the Ultimate Book Reader Companion, as well as 20% off, as of this recording, off their regular plan.